Hello everyone, today we're putting the M54 engine in time. So you will need the timing toolkit for this. We're going to start off by putting the crank pin in. It's already in this picture. I don't know if it's going to focus or not, but it's right down here, right below the starter. It slides in the spot in the flywheel. This motor did not have the timing marks on the front of it. Let's see if it'll focus in here. You can see the little indicators right there. It does not have the marks on the crank pulley. So other than that, we have the rear timing blocks on. It's very important when you do this. You see the little dots right here at the top of each cam. And over here, this one's kind of in the shadow. Let's see if it'll focus for you. And you can see on that one, the dots are up. The dots have to be up. Not a lot of people tell you that on this. Sorry, it's very sunny, and my camera is having problems focusing with the shadows and with the sun. So we're done with that. Those are locked in place. You just snug those down. And also on these rears, you will have to take out the 3 studs for the valve cover. This one right here, this one in the middle, and this one on the end. Those blocks have to be set all the way down. So next we're going to go ahead and drop in the tensioner on the side. You can see right there. And that is the special tensioner that comes with the kit. So let's go grab that and we'll show you that. Okay, so here's the tensioner right here. This is the one that comes in the kit. I did a video on these kits a while back. You go back and look at those to see which one you need to get. So here's this guy. We're going to screw him out. So you can see down here on the bottom that screws that back. So let's go ahead and stick it in the deal here. I don't know if I can get this thing to focus or not. So let's go ahead and put it in here, and we're just going to barely snug it up. If it'll snug up. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. So let me see here. It should start pretty easily. There we go. Make sure that center is turned back far enough. Okay, so what else we have installed? I should have took a video of it, but I did not. Let me try to get you in the shadow here. Okay, so the timing chain tensioner is right here. And there is a bolt right there and a bolt right there. So that's been installed. The main sprocket's been reinstalled. So you're going to want to install the sprocket first. Then you're going to want to install the tensioner. So on the sprocket, there is a arrow. You can see it right there. So the arrow has to be perfectly aligned with the head. That's your gauge on where this main sprocket is positioned. So as you tighten down this tensioner, it's only to 1 foot-pound, so basically hand tighten. That's going to turn this where it's aligned with that. So that's how you line up the primary exhaust chain sprocket. Okay, I'm going to go and add one more thing here. These studs are 20 Newton meters is the torque specs. Also, these are too. After this is on, see, these are just finger tight. You need to go ahead and torque those down. So whenever you put your stacks of washers and gears on there, you don't have to worry about that. That's already done. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so let's start off with the exhaust sprocket. So the first step on the exhaust sprocket is to assemble the cone and the washer. So the washer, let me go ahead and pull it off. I don't know if I can put it back on one hand or not. The washer looks like this. So see, it has a notch in the top of it right here. And there's 2 sides. You can see right here. Okay, so the back side goes in. That's the shallower side. The front side is a lot thicker. So there's also a notch right here. So you're going to want to line up those 2 notches. Let's go and stick that on her real quick. Do that. See if I can focus. And you can see right there, they're lined up. So the trick of it is on the cone. Now both these cones are the same for the exhaust and the intake. So you can see on the cone, it has a little rivet that blocks off one of the vents here. So that's going to go in here like this, and that's going to match up to those two loops. That slid right in pretty easily. You're going to have to take a little more time and carefulness to get that done probably. Sometimes it could be a little bit of a struggle, depends on what year. These cones are made slightly different. They will interchange. Some of them have the rivet, some of them are missing a spline. The ones that are missing a spline are a little more difficult. So right now, that's in there. We'll move the cone in and out very easily. So let's go ahead and get the intake assembled. So this is what we have right now. We have this little jig that came with the kit. You don't have to have this. This does make it slightly easier. So how we're lined up right now, this is the exhaust side, this is the intake side. So these are the next sprockets that will go on. As you can see right here, the little notch, that needs to be aligned to the top. So whenever you go over here and drop it in, it'll align with that notch right there, and so will the rivet and your little cone. Okay, so here we are. The jig's right here. All I did was set the jig by the engine, pick it up off the jig with the chain and both sprockets with the secondary chain. Set it on here. So you're going to be able to see when I zoom in. Well, hopefully. Okay, so you can see right here the two notches are lined up. So that's going to be where we're going to drop in the rivet on the cone. You can see on the exhaust sprocket, the stud's lined up right in the middle. And that jig helps you do that. You don't have to have that, like I said before. It makes it slightly easier. You can get around that. Okay, so here we're back at the front of the car. This cone is in, and you can see it slides in and out pretty easily. And like I said, the notches are lined up. You can't see that with the cone installed. So here we are on the exhaust side. The torque screws are installed. These go in finger tight and then back up just a little bit. They do not get torqued yet. So let's go ahead and put the washers on and the spring plates. Okay, so we're back at the car again. So these guys here are just fingered on at this point. The washer is on there facing front. These are all just finger tight. There's nothing tightened down. One thing I did forget to tell you guys that might cause you a little bit of a heartache is the center tensioner for the secondary timing chain. I did not put that in the right order. It will go in like this. You pull the pin that holds the tensioner, you take the little guide out. This one actually went in from the rear with the main body. I tilted it forward and stuck that back in there. So minor inconvenience. If you watch this video once ahead of time, do that right before you drop the chain in. It's not that big of a deal. So what we're going to do at this point, we're going to go ahead and torque these down, put these bolts in. There's one in the front and three on top. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here we are. At this point, we're going to use the jig. So this is the jig. This allows you to tighten down all the bolts when this is on there. So let's go ahead and slip this thing on. This is going to go on here like this. So a couple things about the jig. I took off the gasket, the metal gasket that goes in between the VANOS and the engine. You want to make sure that it seats tight against the little pins. So let's go ahead and put 4 or 5 bolts in this thing, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so here we are with the VANOS jig installed. We just have a 13 up here. These are just snugged up, a 10 in the middle and a 10 there. You could put all of them in. I don't think it's necessary. So what I was talking about earlier with the cones, you can see right here, this cone is not quite touching that. This cone right here is touching that. So we're going to take a pair of channel locks. We're going to go in here, and we're just going to go ahead and pull that back out just till it's snug against there. This one over here, I don't think we have to do anything to it. We'll just make sure. Okay, so at this point, all these nuts are still loose. They're just finger tight. even the little Torx bolts and the 10s over here are all loose. So the next step at this procedure is you're going to make sure your primary timing chain tensioner is snugged. Go and snug that up with my finger. Once these are out, we're going to go ahead and pull this. Once you pull the pin, then that's going to set all the timing. Now we just need to make sure whenever we do torque these down, and all these are 20 Newton meters or roughly 15 foot-pounds, we need to make sure that this spring plate and everything on this side, you can see it's not moves, it's not in the hole. We'll have to be very careful to make sure all that's lined up on the stud correctly before we tighten it down, or it will not be right. This will probably hit the exhaust cam sensor and break it, and things will go downhill from there. So let's go ahead and tighten those down. But like I said before we do, we're going to go ahead and pull this guy here out. Okay, so now the timing is totally set. Let's look and make sure. And that did pop slightly back off of that. Let's go ahead and slip that. Back out just a hair. You don't need much, just a little bit. Double check those and make sure they're tight. A lot of these jigs have a screw that screws into the cap. This one does not have that, and that kind of sucks. That keeps everything lined up a little better. But this one works, so you just have to be a little more careful about it. So let's go ahead and torque these down. These are all 15 pounds, 20 Newton meters. So let me do that and then we'll be back. Okay, so we went ahead and torque all these down. The 310 nuts there, the 3 torque spits there, and the 310 nuts there. And those are all to 15 foot-pounds or 20 Newton meters. Just be very cautious of this guy, this plate, and make sure it goes on the studs correctly. It does have a flange that needs to sit on, or go over, I might say. So that's done. Recheck the cones. The cones are still pressed against the jig. Everything's good with that. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and pull the jig off. We're going to pull the tensioner out. We're going to reinstall the VANOS, reinstall the main chain tensioner, and after we're done with that, of course, take the blocks off and take the crank pin out, and we're done with this. That's all for the timing. We'll put the intake back on today or tomorrow, see if it's going to start up, and if it has any check engine lights. If it does not, we're good to go. Okay, so that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Check me out on Instagram, Facebook, Nathan's DIY Garage. Thank you.